Yeah, and I'm continuing to keep my own life very peopled, I would say, because when you are writing a novel, you spend a lot of time with your characters. They for a while they become the people in your life, and you spend more time with them than the real people in your life, in a way. Um, I'm married. I have a wife. I spent more actual time with her, but she definitely felt the presence of these other people in my life. It's like she had to knock on the door sometime to get me to come out. Yeah.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, author podcast, where we get to talk to amazing authors from around the world. And it's warm where I am, and it's cool where this author is. And it's like we've flipped roles and flipped locations, because I'm in Canada. And my guests will tell you in a second where they are. And I think I want to pack my bags. I want to make a trip today and go somewhere a little cooler. But I'm really excited to have Beverly on the podcast today, be talking about her book. And even though the title has in there, when you hear the title of the book, We Promise Not to Hurt You. But what you don't know is the book title from Beverly Burch, and she's on the show. Beverly, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And you promise not to hurt anybody with this book, right? Because usually it's what you don't know hurts you. That's kind of the saying. But we're not going to hurt anybody with your book, right?
No. No, I don't. That's not the saying that I have in mind.
Oh, good. Okay, good. There you go. I like that.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
What you don't know, there's always so many things you don't know. And when you're a writer writing a book, there's a lot of things you don't know about writing that book until you write it.
Beautiful. Excellent. Beverly, tell everybody where you are. I mentioned our roles are reversed, and it's nice and cool where you are, hot where I am. Tell everybody where you are.
I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's very pleasantly cool here, and it has been most of the summer. Yeah. In fact, some days almost a little too cold. And that's what our summers are often like, but this year that's really true. And we will get our hot weather in another few weeks. It'll get pretty hot, but for most of June and July and early August, we're cool.
Well, so everyone go on your map and put your finger on where Beverly is, put your finger on where I am in Ontario, Canada, and go, that doesn't make any sense at all. It should be colder, right?
The coolness is actually, you said you might move here for that?
Well, I would love
that. That is part of why I grew up in Georgia, where it is incredibly hot. And when I came here in July and felt this, I said, that's it. I'm living here.
Done. Yeah. Good. Yeah. It's a beautiful place, too. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Photos,
lots
videos.
Of natural beauty.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of natural beauty. In fact, yesterday, I was out walking in this place I love to walk, and we discovered a bald eagle's nest and saw in a huge clump of eucalyptus, and saw one of the juveniles. Very cool.
Nice. That's really nice. Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Very American, too, by the way. Bald eagle. I love that.
True.
That's gorgeous. That's great.
That's true.
Excellent. Your journey as an author, Beverly. I always like to start here with my guests. What was it for you that kind of brought you down this path of becoming an author and writing? Was it a person? Was it an event? What sparked your journey to start writing?
No one thing.
Okay.
I just always loved it. My mother was actually a writer. She was a journalist. Oh. And so writing seemed quite normal to me, just a thing you did. And I did that. I started writing first. I actually wrote a couple of nonfiction books. I'm a psychotherapist also. I've been a psychotherapist for many, many years. And although my practice is now closed, so I can write. But I published 2 books that were in the field of psychoanalytic thinking about women, sort of rewriting some of that theory, which needed to be rewritten. And then I began writing poetry, and I published 4 books of poetry, wrote poetry for many years, but I was writing fiction, short stories all along. And I was raising a child, had a full-time practice. I just didn't imagine having time to write a novel. But when I closed my practice, then I had the time. Yeah. And so my interest now is more now in a long form.
Wow. Those are all different styles of writing.
They are.
What's your go-to? What do you love? Like, what's easy for you? You're just like, oh, I can't wait to do this. Is it still poetry? Is it short stories? Like, what do you enjoy writing?
Well, that's an evolving thing. Right now, it is fiction. Although I'm also writing essays. I have a Substack, and I love writing those. Those are wonderful because you can put wild things together. And I have in mind something of a memoir also about growing up in the South, race, sexuality, and craziness of some of Southern culture, and so that's on my desk to get to. I work on some of that. I think the different kinds of writing, I think of them as they're like different rooms in your writing house, and you have to enter that room. Right. Room of what you're writing and stay there for a while. And then if you want to write something else, you really have to go to another room. You have to find a passage to that other room. And sometimes that passage works best through reading. Yeah.
What's your approach on Substack? Like, I've had other authors on and they're thinking about Substack. They're not really sure if it's great for them as a writer. What are you enjoying about writing and having community on Substack?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm loving it. Yeah. The title of my Substack is Rethinking Almost Everything. And I write a Substack post every couple of weeks that involves looking at things that are going on. Something usually begins with something personal, picks up on something political that may be happening, and goes into literature that relates to these subjects. And then I briefly review a couple of my favorite novels. I love doing that and pull out a few quotes from them. I'm just writing one now where I'm drawing on two books from Sebastian Barry, who's kind of my new favorite author.
Nice.
My last one was on the love affair that exists between readers and writers. Yes, I think that goes both ways.
Very interesting. Okay, so we can get that through your website and connect with you to come to your Substack then, right?
Yeah, you can, or you can just go straight to Substack. You can put in my name, or you can put in. It's Burch BURCHB.substack.
Okay, beautiful, excellent. We'll have a link for everybody to come and join that. I think it's a great place for writers and authors to. You can work on your project, but then move over to a community-based, a place where people can sign up, follow you, interact with you. And just grows your community a little bit more, and you have more one-on-one with your audience as well, right?
You're exactly right. That's what I love about it. There's a sense of community there, and I love the back and forth between readers and writers.
Yeah, smart.
I love that. I love that. That's what I like about readings. That's what I like about visiting a book group. You get the back and forth.
Yeah. What other advice do you have for young authors, new authors listening, Beverly? They're just starting out their journey, and they're longing to be at the place where you are. You've published many, many things, but what would be helpful for you early on in your writing career on a podcast you press play on and you heard from another author? What would have been helpful for you to hear?
A couple of things. One is learn to love revision. Revision is your friend. It is where you get to play. Getting the initial substance of what you're writing down, that's hard. Yeah. That's effortful, whether it's a story or an essay or whatever. Really finding that first draft is labor. It can love it, but it's labor. But then you get to go back and revise it, because never make the mistake of thinking what you've done the first time through is good enough. Revision is where you really get to play with it and have so much fun and find ways to make it truer and truer and to move things around and to, there's a saying that I love, first make it exist, then make it good. And that I think is really important for writers. And then I think the other thing I would say is you can use something from your life that really has mattered to you, stayed with you. It doesn't have to be about you. It might be a story you heard about someone else that has just stayed with you in some way for many years.
Yeah.
For example, in my novel, there's twin sisters, and one of them dies very early, and it's completely horribly devastating to the other twin. And I knew someone that this really happened to many, many years ago, but I thought about it for a long time about what a very particular kind of loss that is. And so you have this piece of thing that you want to work with, but then you let your imagination go to work on it and transform it into something else, and then it becomes something that new and something that's yours. And I think picking up things from your real life is really useful, but you're not, unless you're writing a memoir, you're not really trying, and even when you are writing a memoir, you're not trying just to tell the historical truth. You're really trying to find the emotional and psychological truth behind it, and that's where it has to come somewhat from your own imagination.
Okay, those are good starting points. I like that. For the readers who are here for your book, Beverly, their first time to get your book, they just ordered it, it's arrived at their house, they're ready to read it for the first time. Do you have a message for the reader before they dive into your book for the first time?
No, not really. I mean, just approach it as, you're going to you're going to meet some new people. You will, I hope, find them and their story compelling. So be open, be ready.
Mm-hmm. Okay, give us a big idea of the story of the book then too as well, so we can kind of, I'm listening for myself as a reader, but I'm also listening for others that I could recommend this book to others. Kind of give us an idea of the story that we're going to see in your book.
Well, I call this book a love story and a grief story and a ghost story, because there is a kind of ghost in it, a kind of paranormal presence. And basically, it's the story of two women whose relationship begins with antagonism that is pretty much circumstantial. They're thrown into a circumstance that makes them kind of antagonistic to each other. But then their relationship grows into something that's really very tender and electric, and then catastrophic. So that would be a description of the book in one sense. Another sense would be that it is a book that deals with loss a lot, and it deals with relationship triangles, where there's three people in the relationship. Not the third person isn't always present. They may be present in someone's mind. They may be present in the imagination. But I think human relationships, when you really look closely at them, they so often are about triangles, whether it's between the two parents and a child, or other family members, or whether it's with lovers, or with a past lover whose presence seems to be hanging around, or in friendships, or when two people love the same person. I mean, there's many ways that triangles manifest themselves, but I think they are kind of ubiquitous. And I'm really interested in that, partly as a therapist, that I think there's something that psychologically is about us as humans that tends to form triangulated relationships. But also as readers, I really wanted to kind of dive into that kind of experience and look at the way it impacts people.
Does some of your past career in therapy and helping people show up in the book as part of some of the storylines and stuff? Does it find its way in there, or is it separate?
No, never. I mean, I think the stories that I learned from people in my practice, I would say I have kind of a firewall around that, because those are deeply confidential. But I do think something about the experience of being in therapy is in the book.
Okay.
That one of my main characters, Chloe and Rosie are the two main characters. Well, Chloe goes to therapy several different times, and each experience is quite different. And I was really interested in writing about therapy from the point of view of the person who's experiencing it. I've been in therapy myself. I've been a therapist. I think it's a very particular kind of relationship with a lot of intimacy and a lot of complexity. So I really enjoyed writing about that.
Yeah. You talk about that firewall around you, and I understand why you would need that. But I would think that just the human experience and being with somebody in the room and hearing their story has to have some kind of impact on you after they leave the room and they continue with their day.
Oh.
You're just kind of sitting with that, right? So
Always,
that's kind of
absolutely.
shaped kind of how you approach life
Yeah.
and how you rethink your own experience as well, hearing these stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And when I finally closed my practice, I missed it a lot. I missed the people that I had worked with. I missed that way of being with someone. You know, I really did miss it a lot. I loved the work.
Now you can use your abilities and write stories and share stories. And in a way, you're still continuing to help people through story, right?
Yeah, and I'm continuing to keep my own life very peopled.
Yeah.
I would say,
Yeah, peopled.
because
I like that. Yeah.
you know, when you are writing a novel, you spend a lot of time with your characters. They for a while they become the people in your life,
Right.
and you spend more time with them than the real people in your life, in a way. I'm married. I have a wife.
Yeah.
I spent more actual time with her, but you know, she definitely felt the presence of these other people in my life. It's like she had to knock on the door sometime
Tap, tap,
to
tap.
get me to come out. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I'm glad that she could share you for the time of the writing as well, to focus
Yeah.
in on that. But it's interesting because you're not just writing the book, you're writing it together because your relationship is part of the process and everything as well, right? So that's interesting. I like that. That's great. For your book then, let's talk then a little bit more about kind of how you built your characters. I'm always interested to figure out that side of it from a reader's perspective, because I don't know how you do what you do. I know what I'm reading, but I don't know how you build it. When you start off the book, you have a fully fleshed out idea of who your characters are, and then you start creating the stories? Do you create the story and your characters start showing up for you and meeting you while you write? Like, how do you develop your characters throughout this book?
It's a bit of all of that.
Okay.
I think it's really different for different writers. For me, I said I used to write short stories a lot, and I had written quite a series of short stories, and I found the same characters kept popping up in them. And then I realized, oh, well, these are really linked stories. And I thought at first I might publish a collection of linked stories. But then it was too much. And I showed it to an editor who said, no, you should really focus in on a few of the characters and tell their story and make it a novel. And so I spent a few years doing that, having to find what is the real story arc here. And but the characters were staying with me, and they did keep growing and developing, especially when I could just focus on these two main characters, these two women. They began to reveal themselves to me more and more, and what their story was. It did not all. I certainly didn't know from the beginning. That's part of why I sort of wink at the title, "What You Don't Know." It's what I didn't know. And there's these characters, it's a story of a woman's, to put it in psychological terms, her individuation, where she really discovers a lot about who she is, both career-wise, sexually, as a mother. She comes from the Chloe, who's perhaps the main character, comes from a background of deprivation, and she has a lot to do to find out what her real life is. Okay. And so that began to really shape the book, that trajectory.
I know that covers matter, and people say don't judge a book by its cover, but actually you should. Your book, I'm a musician, so I can't let this go. There's a guitar on the cover of the book. Is there,
Yes.
what's the significance of the guitar without giving anything away if it's just part of the story, but is there a reason why that's there?
Yes, I think I can give away some of it.
Okay,
It's
okay.
early in the book.
Okay.
that Chloe finds her way to Nashville, and she lives. A big chunk of the story is set in Nashville, which is truly Music City. And I did live in Nashville for a few years, and there is no way to live in Nashville and not be really touched by the music world. And so Chloe ends up marrying this man who's a producer of jazz and blues. So she's handles the financial investments for some music producers. This is early part of her story, and she has to find out what's right and not right about that for her. But there's a lot of the story that is in Nashville and does center around the music business.
There you go. Okay, so that's why I'm glad I asked that. So anybody living in Nashville, obviously this book's going to be on your coffee table. You're going to be buying a copy just for that. Come on. So that's really good. You did promise me, and I'm so thankful you said yes to this, but we chatted and I offered the idea of maybe reading some of your book to us, which would be a joy. I love hearing an author read their own book because it's in your words and you wrote these words, so you know what's coming around the corner better than anyone. So hearing it read by the author is such a joy for me. I love audiobooks. I love any of that kind of stuff. So would you be okay to read for a little bit for us from the book and maybe set up a little bit of what you're going to read for us?
Yes, I'd be very happy to. So I said there's two main characters, Chloe and Rosie, and I talked about Chloe a bit. But this part that I'm going to read to you is about Rosie. And Rosie is the woman whose twin sister is in peril here. And this scene begins when she gets a call from Peter, who is her twin sister Angie's husband, and says that Angie is in the emergency room. She gets this call like at midnight, and so she's in a panic about what's going on with her sister. So that's where the story begins. And again, Peter is the husband. Rosie rushed to her car and cranked up the AC against the muggy night, backed out without looking, grazed a pillar of the garage before she veered into the driveway and turned into the wrong lane on Deering. The street was deserted, with little traffic until she reached 21st Avenue. As she pulled into the visitor's lot, a street lamp winked out. She opened the door before the engine was off, the steamy night air like swamp breath. Urgency hit again. She ran, tripped on the curb, landed hard on her knee. Peter waited inside the door, his face anemic and his eyes red. Rosie gripped his arm. "What happened, Peter?" I don't know what happened. She had one of those headaches and went upstairs. I found her on the floor. I couldn't wake her. I called 911. They couldn't wake her either, so we're here. I just talked to her tonight. She was fine. She didn't respond, Rosie. She just lay there. Fear fluttered in the gut. Rosie crossed to the alcove and knocked on the plexiglass where a clerk sat yanking her hair out of its plastic tie, putting it back in. "I'm with Angie Swiggin. I'm her sister, her twin. Could you please tell me what's happening?" The clerk looked too young to think about anything but her phone. She peered at a piece of paper. "I told her husband she's back in radiology. But how is she?" "Sorry, I don't know anything." Rosie patted the air with her hands. Peter had settled a few seats over. She paced in the waiting room, staring at the clock's pointy arms, its lurching second hand, until the room began to swim. A sense of unreality swamped her. She took a seat and pressed her palms to her eyes. Which of them was in the waiting room and which one was hurt? Like the time she fell out of a tree and didn't know who had fallen until she heard herself groan. So close, they knew each other's minds like people who knew time without a clock. Not a private language, more like a private line, invisible wires between them. She stood and announced, "I'm going to walk around outside." Out on the lawn, she dropped to her haunches, put her arms across her knees, and let her head rest against them. She could make her way to radiology, wait for them to wheel Angie out. Maybe she could at least hold her hand. The night air had grown sweet at 3 a.m., heat lifting, freshened by the scent of the breeze. Rosie, sweetie, don't fret. I'm okay, just in a weird new way. Really, I see you there on the grass. Don't be scared. I'm okay. Peaceful. It's peaceful here. Rosie looked around, startled. Everyone's so busy around me. A doctor's holding something like a mask on my face. Another's doing something to my neck. He has a blue stain on his scrubs like ink. A feeling of terror swept over Rosie, an electrical burn through her insides. She pushed hysteria down. Peter's in trouble, Rosie. Listen, take care of Peter. Help him. Rosie stood up, stared into the shrubbery, looked up at the sky. She might be losing her mind. She returned to the ER, and time seemed hardly to have moved. Peter sat still with his head in his hands. She sat with him, put an arm around his shoulders. He raised his face but didn't look at her. Impassive, like a stop sign. No one home. She had disliked him for a while after she liked him first. The way he looked at Angie, the way she looked at him, excluding her. She could dislike him again. All of this his fault somehow. But instead she wanted to comfort him and wanted comfort from him. Minutes passed in twos. 2 more. 2 more. 2 more. A male nurse broke her reverie when he stepped into the waiting room. Mr. Swagan, he called. Peter unkinked his legs and stood up like a soldier. Your wife's in surgery. I'm sorry, I thought the other nurse had informed you. She thought I had. Surgery? What kind of surgery? There was something on the MRI. She's not actually my patient. Rosie and Peter looked at each other. He started to weep, the wrenching, gasping sobs of a man who doesn't cry often. It was brief, and when it passed, they sat down together. She put her arms around him. Whatever happened, they'll fix it. Peter stood, walked to the door, and went out into the night. Rosie followed and leaned her head on his shoulder. Talk to me, Peter. We have to help each other. Aneurysm, Peter said. That's it. You don't know that. They're not telling us, but I think that's it. She punched him in the arm. Stop saying that. Her body felt like she was catching fire. He took her fist and held it in his hand. That he had a stronger sense of Angie than she had. She couldn't bear it. Around 7 a.m., a young doctor came in to say the surgery was over. A blue ink stain on his scrubs caught Rosie's eye. I'll stop there.
Interesting.
So this is where the scene where you first get a taste for the paranormal.
Yeah.
Where there's this voice that is Angie's voice that comes to Rosie. And Angie speaks to Rosie off and on throughout the novel, and then she begins to speak to Chloe, too. Chloe, who eventually marries Peter. So there's another triangle. And Angie speaks to both of them. And it's not clear to them if this is real or they're imagining this or if this is projection. It's the kind of questions that I think we always have about the paranormal. But that's also an element in the novel.
The blue stain on the doctor's scrubs. I'm like, oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually, that's another piece that I got from an actual story of that a psychologist I know who's studying near-death experiences told the story of a woman who was in an ER who had had taken an overdose. And a friend of hers in the waiting room heard her tell her that the doctor who was attending her had a spaghetti stain on his scrubs. And when he came out to talk to her, there was a doctor with a spaghetti sauce on his scrubs. I mean,
what?
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you carried that into the story, right? Kind of altered it a little bit, but that kind of theme to that connection. That's what I think a lot of people who are facing something traumatic like that and not knowing when they have a comforting message come to them, however that arrives, I'm not really sure how
Yeah.
that works, but when they have that kind of comforting message in that time when they need to hear it the most, that's very interesting. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, peaceful for people
Yeah.
as well as they're wrestling with not knowing how to help or not having an answer or not getting anybody to tell them what's going on. Just that message from your loved one in that moment. That's amazing.
Yeah. No, I think it's true. We never know exactly what it means or what to make of it or what these things are about. That's why I got very interested in this study this doctor was doing. He's written a excellent book about it that's called After. And he's a psychologist at the University of Virginia Medical School. And so he's interviewed a lot of people who've had near-death experiences.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting.
Nice. We'll have to get a link for that. I'll put that in the notes so people can go check that out as well.
Yeah, his last name is Grayson. I can't think of what his first name is right now.
Yeah, I'll grab that and put it in there for everybody so they can see that.
Good.
That's good.
That would be great.
So my podcast is called Living the Next Chapter, so I have to ask, because my audience is going to ask me, you've written many things in the past. How are you, as an author, living your next chapter? Can we kind of get a sense of what's coming down the road from you as an author? Because I know when people find an author they love, they're like, I hope there's more. I hope there's more. Right? Can you give us an insight?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I have gotten, a lot of people who've read the book have given me feedback, that they really want more. And what I'm doing is I'm picking up some of the minor characters in this story and giving them their own stories. And so that's sort of a follow-up of this, of having had these linked stories that people who are minor characters in one story, they have other stories that are really focused on them. It's sort of like, Jennifer Egan famously has written a couple of books like that are really fun. A Visit from the Goon Squad. And so Elizabeth Strout does that all the time. She has the same characters over and over in her stories, but a different point of view, a different focus. And I love her work also. So I like that. It's something about it that I think really reflects the invisible connections between all of us and the ways we are all so connected and have no idea about that in a way. So in my next book, I am picking up some themes that I've been working on that actually have to do with race. If this book had to do a lot with sexuality, that book will have to do a lot with race. And I'm exploring some things about that are very interesting to me and compelling. So that's where I hope to be headed. I've written a few of the chapters and they're working so far. You never know exactly where it's going to go, but I think I've got a good entry into it.
Good. Excellent. I like that for the sake of us as readers. And when we find an author we love and we fall in love with and enjoy their work, we're always hoping for the next, because we'll save a spot on our shelf for your next book.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
I like that.
That's, yeah. Well, I do think, I think that's what you're talking about there. It's kind of what I was talking about with the love affair between readers and writers. That it's really can be quite powerful. There are writers that I love. I absolutely will read everything that they write. And, it's something about reading that it makes me very sad when I hear that people don't read as much anymore, because I feel like there's a whole experience there that people miss, that it's one mind engaged with another mind is what's going on in reading. And there's a kind of, I would almost call it a kind of dialogue going on
Yeah.
there, because as the reader, you're having your own responses, and that's why, as a writer, it's sometimes very wonderful to be able to hear those responses, to really have that dialogue for real.
Yeah.
But even without that, there's definitely a relationship that's being built through that, and there's many things I think fiction does for us. It entertains us. It's just a source of great pleasure. It develops our capacities for empathy. Sometimes it has a lot of significant historical information in it. But I think its most profound effect really is this business of relationship. Mm-hmm. The relationship that comes through both in the story, you get the relationships, but you begin to feel like you know someone, and that someone is the author.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the best way to know an author is through their work, not even knowing them in person, which sometimes is a disappointment.
Yeah. Right.
But knowing them through their work.
Yeah. There's a companionship there built over time. You feel like you know them, and even though you may have never met them in person, you just there's a feeling of home when you see your favorite author releases the next book, right?
Yes, you do feel kind of like you know this person.
Yeah.
And you certainly you look forward to where they're going to take you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of the hope for building this whole podcast idea. Was I wanted people to hear your voice, connect with you as the author, and then remove the mystery of a book on a shelf from an author we may not have heard of yet. And will I love this? Will I enjoy this book? Will I enjoy this author's writings? Now that I get to hear your voice and get to hear the story, and you've read to us, which is beautiful, now I have a taste, right? And now I'm ready and I'm curious to pursue that taste. So I like that.
Yes, good.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Good.
That's the idea.
Yes, I love that. That's great, because I think, I mean, these are important relationships in our lives. Mm-hmm. This is something as a therapist, if you don't know it from other reasons, that everything about who we are really is formed through relationship.
Right.
We are very relational creatures.
Yeah.
And I think we get that through reading also.
Right. And in a world where we're so connected through digital means, we're really disconnected in real life from each other.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And when somebody talks to you out in public, you're like looking around like you're talking to me, like, oh, I'm not used to people talking to me. I'm so caught up in my phone or my day, right? That it's weird now when somebody speaks to you in public. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
So, right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. We even have this, little text abbreviation, IRL, in real life.
Right.
Like that's a bizarre place, real life.
Yeah. This weird place outside of our homes and outside of our phones.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I love the books are that kind of community building thing we talked about, that maybe take you back out of that world and put you back into the world of reading again. And to your point, wish more people read and were involved in reading. I think that's something we can really develop. And having great authors, writing great stories is one of the first steps to get people back in love with reading again. So this is good.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Having a great story. You want a story that makes you want to keep going paragraph to paragraph, chapter to chapter. You want to turn those pages because the story has grabbed you.
Right.
And that's I guess, when you ask about advice to other writers, that's it. Make your reading, your writing, your characters, your plot, all of it, make them compelling.
Right.
You want the reader to feel compelled to keep going.
Right to the end.
Yeah.
That's the way you do it. Excellent. Beverly, thank you so much for doing this. BeverlyBurch.com. What You Don't Know is the book. Many, many more to come. And you have Substack. We have many ways to connect with you. We'll have links for that in the show notes for people to follow through and to be part of your world. And you write words for us as an author. We write words for you as a review. So I'm encouraging everyone as you buy Beverly's book, not when, when you buy it, not if, right? When you buy her book, that you leave a great review. Because I know Beverly would love to hear your thoughts.
I
on what
would
you've
love
written,
to hear.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Dave, I really appreciate that. It's been fun to talk with you.
Excellent. Come back with more stuff in the future. I'd love to talk to you again.
Oh, great. I'd love to do that.
And thank you for reading for us. I think that was really meaningful. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Excellent. Everyone, all information as always in the show notes for Beverly. I know she'd love to hear from you. Sign up for her Substack. She'd love to have you follow her over there as well. A little community being built around her. And you want to interact with her one-on-one, go to her Substack for sure. I know she'd love to chat with you there. And again,
Absolutely.
Beverly, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.